Before Johnny Rotten became the voice that tore rock music apart, before he sneered his way through anarchy in the UK and terrified Britain's polite society, he was just John Lydon, a working-class kid in London with a brain full of noise. Not noise from the streets, but from records. Records that confused, frightened, and inspired him. They weren't famous hits, they were strange, messy, and sometimes unlistenable. But inside those sounds, Rotten found a kind of freedom that would later ignite punk itself. Welcome to Rock Fame Diaries, where we uncover the hidden sounds that shaped rock's most dangerous minds. Today, we dive deep into the 7 albums that built Johnny Rotten's rebellion. Number 1. Captain Beefheart, Trout Mask Replica, 1969. Before punk had a name, Captain Beefheart was already living it. Trout Mask Replica wasn't just an album, it was an act of war against everything that made sense in music. When most artists were chasing melodies, Beefheart was chasing madness. Rotten heard it as a teenager and laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was liberating. Guitars collided like broken machines, rhythms fell apart and reassembled mid-song, and the vocals sounded like an alien reading poetry after 3 sleepless nights. To the world, it was unlistenable. To Rotten, it was honest. That chaos, that refusal to please anyone, became the foundation of punk's DNA. Trout Mask Replica taught Rotten that music didn't need to sound right, it just needed to feel real. It showed him that being misunderstood could be the most authentic thing of all. Number 2. Can. Tago Mago, 1971. If Beefheart's album gave Rotten permission to be chaotic, Can's Tago Mago taught him the power of repetition and trance. This German krautrock masterpiece was hypnotic, mechanical grooves that rolled forward like a train with no destination. Can didn't write songs, they created environments. 18-minute jams. Drums that sounded like engines dreaming. Vocals that turned into rhythm instead of melody. When Rotten discovered it, he saw the genius. Music didn't have to shout to be powerful. Sometimes the most rebellious thing you could do was lock into a groove and never let go. Later, with Public Image Limited, Rotten turned that lesson into his own art. Repetition is rebellion. While punk bands screamed, he experimented with space and rhythm, just like Can. It wasn't about chaos anymore, it was about control, and how long you could stretch it before it snapped. Number 3. Neu! 1972. Next came Neu, another German duo that proved less could be louder than more. Rotten was fascinated by how 2 musicians, Klaus Dinger and Michael Rother, could create so much intensity with so little. Their sound was pure motion. The drums never stopped, never overplayed, just drove forward like the Autobahn at midnight. 10 minutes of the same beat on Halligallo, yet you couldn't stop listening. This was the minimalist revolution, and Rotten took notes. In Neu, endless rhythm, he heard the same pulse that made punk breathe. You didn't need solos or showmanship, you just needed purpose. For Rotten, Neu was the bridge between noise and precision. It taught him that simplicity wasn't weakness, it was power refined to its sharpest point. Number 4. Peter Hammill. The Silent Corner and the Empty Stage, 1974. Most people think punk was born from anger, but for Rotten, it was also born from emotion. When he first heard Peter Hammill, the frontman of Van der Graaf Generator, something clicked. Hammill wasn't pretending to be broken, he was broken. The Silent Corner and the Empty Stage was full of raw honesty. Cracked vocals, trembling pianos, lyrics that cut like knives. It wasn't comfortable to listen to, and that's why Rotten loved it. He saw vulnerability not as weakness, but as the ultimate act of rebellion. Where pop artists polished every imperfection, Hammill let his emotions bleed onto tape. Rotten carried that same philosophy into the Sex Pistols. No filters, no pretense, no fake smiles. Real art, he learned, wasn't about making people happy. It was about making them feel, even if it hurt. Number 5. Tim Buckley. Star Sailor, 1970. Now imagine a folk singer so fearless that he burned his own success to chase something nobody could understand. That was Tim Buckley, and his 1970 masterpiece, Star Sailor, was his act of creative self-destruction. When Rodden first listened, he didn't hear songs, he heard Risk. Buckley's voice soared beyond language, screaming, whispering, improvising. It was jazz, rock, and madness all colliding. Most fans hated it, Rodden adored it. Because Buckley did what most artists fear, he abandoned comfort. He gave up popularity for honesty. For Rodden, Star Sailor was proof that commercial suicide could be artistic immortality. Better to create one misunderstood masterpiece than a lifetime of mediocrity. That's why Rodden never chased fame, he chased truth, even if it meant standing alone. Number 6. King Tubby meets rockers Uptown, 1976. While England's punks were smashing guitars, Jamaica was quietly reinventing sound itself. And Johnny Rodden was paying attention. King Tubby's Meets Rockers Uptown flipped the concept of music upside down. It wasn't about adding more, it was about taking away. Dub reggae stripped songs bare, removing vocals, drowning instruments in echo, making silence just as loud as sound. To Rodden, this was revolution in slow motion. Tubby's mixing board became an instrument of rebellion. Every echo, every delay was a protest against structure. This idea deeply shaped Rodden's later work with Public Image Limited, especially Metal Box, which sounded like punk dipped in dub, heavy bass, space, echo, and danger. King Tubby taught him that destruction was creation, and that rebellion could whisper as powerfully as it could scream. Number 7. Van der Graaf Generator, Pawn Hearts, 1971. And finally, the album that terrified and inspired him the most, Pawn Hearts. This wasn't music, it was a psychological event. 23 minutes of madness, chaos, and genius. Peter Hamill's voice twisting through insanity. Organs roaring like collapsing cathedrals. Every note sounded like the end of the world, and Rodden loved it. Why? Because it refused to make sense. It demanded effort. It didn't care about charts or hits. It only cared about honesty. Rodden saw himself in that chaos, the outsider who wouldn't play by the rules. Pawn Hearts gave him the courage to make music that alienated before it connected. And that became his legacy. Punk didn't start because of rage alone. It started because one man learned, from 7 strange albums, that art must never apologize. Johnny Rodden was never just about anger. He was about truth, the kind that makes people uncomfortable. These 7 albums gave him the courage to build a career out of disobedience. From Beefheart's chaos to King Tubby's silence, each record whispered the same message. Be fearless, be strange, and never let the world tell you what music should sound like. And that's the story of how 7 strange albums shaped Johnny Rodden's punk mind. If you love digging into the roots of rock rebellion, hit that subscribe button and keep the stories alive with Rock Fame Diaries, where every legend has a noise worth remembering. Which of these albums would you dare to listen to all the way through? Drop your thoughts below, and remember, sometimes the loudest sound in music is the truth.